Welcome to SportsBeat KC, the Kansas City Star's daily sports podcast. It is Tuesday, September 22nd, and I'm Blair Kirchhoff. Well, it's not Chiefs-Ravens week because they don't play until next Monday, but it is, and we couldn't wait to dive in and talk about it. Star columnists Vahe Gregorian and Sam Mellinger stopped by to provide a first look at the game that'll feature two of the game's top quarterbacks in Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. We take a look back at the previous two games between these teams, regular season contests in 2018 and 2019, both won by the Chiefs at Arrowhead, and see if there are any lessons to apply to this meeting, which takes place in Baltimore on Monday Night Football. So, here we go with Sam and Vahe. Vahe, Sam, how you guys doing?
Great. You know my word, Blair, dandy.
Dandy, just dandy, great and dandy. How could it be any better than that? It just can't be. It can't be. Especially fine and dandy. I like that even better. Well, especially with a pretty big Monday night game coming up. Chiefs at Ravens. This will be the third year in a row that these teams have played in the regular season. We thought they were going to meet each other in the playoffs last year in Baltimore in front of fans. Didn't happen. But I'm really looking forward to seeing this game. Week 3, this is the week where they played a year ago as well. Maybe down the road, because of the attraction of the matchup, this will be a December late afternoon regular season game, or just save it for later. But anyway, it's a Monday Night Football game in Week 3. It's going to be a lot of fun, and it is is it the premier battle between quarterbacks in the NFL? Are these the two best quarterbacks in the NFL, Sam?
I mean, Russell Wilson is really, really good. He's the only one that I would put in there, though. Any one of those three, I guess. I don't know if this is like local bias, right? I think Mahomes is the best, and then I think it's between Lamar and Russell Wilson, and then Aaron Rodgers, Deshaun Watson, maybe a few others below that. But yeah, this is about as good as it gets in terms of. I mean, they're both young. Lamar Jackson's even younger than Mahomes.
Right.
And, same conference. I mean, I hope that this is sort of the next generation's Brady Manning. And it's got that look because not only are they super talented, terrific quarterbacks, but they're also, two good franchises that you expect those coaching staffs and the front offices to have some stability to let these guys have success for a long time.
Blair, just to echo that a little bit, I mean, I do feel like that's what we're looking at. We're looking at not just the quarterback matchup, but maybe let's just say, I guess, semi-conservatively, the next 3 to 5 years, aren't we looking at two of the teams that should be the perennial contenders in the AFC? And then you have the connection with the coaching staff and all that. There's kind of a cool thing building here, I think.
Well, and that is
awesome. Sorry, but this would be amazing. Is if Bill O'Brien gets fired, after the season, and then they hire Eric Bieniemy, and then you've got like all three of those guys in the AFC with like Andy Reid connections. That's what I'm rooting for.
Before I continue that thought, or the thought on Mahomes and Jackson. Let's Houston's getting a lot of grief these days, being 0-2, but they've played the Chiefs and the Ravens in the first 2 weeks. I'm not sure how many other teams would not be 0-2 at this point, and I think they have to go to Pittsburgh this week. But the Ravens looked terrific in winning at Houston this past week, and the Chiefs looked terrific in Week 1, especially in the second and third quarters, rolling over Baltimore. But going back to the quarterbacks for a second, Russell Wilson, after 2 weeks, has the top quarterback rating in the NFL. Lamar Jackson is number 2. You have to go all the way down to number 12 to find Patrick Mahomes. And I think you were onto something with that tweet Sunday, Sam.
Sam, you said this in your follow-up tweet, but it was really remarkable how many people took you seriously.
Well, yeah, it was. But what was really like blew my doors off is that there were people who took it seriously and agreed.
Well, reset the tweet really quick. What exactly did you say?
I'm paraphrasing, but it was something like at some point you have to wonder how long the Chiefs will stick with Mahomes.
Right. It was during the game, during the game on Sunday.
And, I mean, you think about like just things you can say and everybody will know you're joking. And I figured that was one of them, but not everybody.
Oh my gosh. Well,
yeah.
Would they have won the game with Chad Henne?
We'll never know.
No, I guess not. And if they had lost that game, do you begin the tanking process to get up for Trevor Lawrence?
Lawrence, yeah. Exactly.
Oh man. Okay. Well, I was amused. I was amused by that, and you did it, and I think you did address it in the Mellinger minutes as well. So find that on kansascity.com and read that. That was quite amusing. All right, what do you guys remember about the previous two Chiefs Ravens meetings? I've got some thoughts, but I want to know what you guys. I know. Look, it's hard to remember regular season NFL games, but there seemed to be some moments when the Chiefs and the Ravens played. I think the first thing to know is the Chiefs are 2-0 in those games. So Mahomes has 2 wins on Lamar Jackson. But do anything stand out in the way these two teams faced off against each other?
Well, I've got a quicker, more shallow thought than Sam will, so I'll just throw that in real quick. It seemed to me, you had the sense of the Chiefs coming up against the team that understood the Chiefs, right, in a way that maybe some other teams didn't. And I felt like, gosh, I can't remember if this was as true last year, but 2 years ago, the Chiefs really got sort of physically beaten up, didn't they? A really rough team. I'm not saying dirty. I don't remember anything dirty, but just the Ravens were really physical with the Chiefs. So that's just a quick off the top of my head recollection.
Yeah, I mean, that 4th and 9 game is how I'll always remember it, that the Chiefs won in overtime. And that was, like, I think until Sunday, really as much as I can remember Mahomes getting beat up, just hit. I can't remember how many sacks he had. It wasn't a huge number, but he just got hit over and over and over again. The thing I remember about the game last year was just them sealing the game on that. It was a screen pass, right, to Darrell Williams.
On 3rd and 7 or something like that, 3rd and 6. They needed to pick up a first down to run out the clock after having a big lead in that game, and then having the Ravens chip away in the fourth quarter.
Yep. And then the other thing I remember is in the locker room after that game, not as much the 4th and 9 game, but the game last year, the Chiefs defensive players, just all of them, just shaking their heads at trying to tackle Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
I mean, it was one of those, just like you could just read the respect and admiration and, borderline awe that a lot of those guys, especially the defensive linemen, had for him. There was a time where I'm not trying to call the guy out, but I think it was Alex Okafor just got put on ice skates, by the sideline. Lamar just kind of put him in the blender, as they say. And there were a lot of plays like that. He's different. And for whatever reason, because the 4th and 9 game, he was relatively, that wasn't his first start, was it? But it
was like his 4th or 5th.
Yeah,
and he hadn't lost. I mean, that was he took over for Flacco and was terrific. People were wondering what the hell. I mean, where is this guy? Why hadn't he been playing?
And you could see talent in that 4th and 9 game, the game in 18. But last year, that game in 19, you could see that he had grown, as a quarterback. And he always has the athleticism, but, he had just grown. And the better that he can throw it. And, I think the knocks on him throwing the ball are overstated. If you just watch the games, especially this year, he looks to be even better than he was last year when he led the league in touchdown passes. And I believe was up there toward the top in passer rating in the pocket.
And completion percentage.
Yeah, I think he's like at 68% since the beginning of last year, something like that. I mean, he's, look like he's going to have more open receivers than like a traditional, Joe Flacco kind of quarterback, just because defenders have to worry about more. But he made this pass to Willie Snead that was just, I mean, it was like perfectly placed between 3 defenders. I mean, he's grown a lot, man. He's going to be a problem, not just for the Chiefs on Monday, but he's going to be a problem for everybody they play.
Quick thing I just looked up, and I think this holds up. That first time the Chiefs played um, the Ravens in 2018 in this regime anyway, with Patrick at quarterback. Patrick threw 53 passes. That's the most he's ever thrown. And quick thing back to the Ravens and what we're looking at here. I'm reminded right now, especially because I cashed in my leftover Southwest Airlines funds to make this flight to LA the other day, funds that would have been applied to Baltimore last year. I wonder how differently everything would have played out if the Chiefs had to go there then. We'll never know. And I'm not saying the Chiefs didn't deserve every bit of fortune that they've accumulated for the last 50 years to make up for other things. But I am reminded of how things fell the Chiefs' way a little bit as we think about this now.
Well, starting with that New England outcome, right, in the regular season, that the Dolphins beating the Patriots. But I'll something else about the 2018 game that sticks with me. That was the last time the Chiefs won an overtime game, and Harrison Butker walked off with the game-winning kick in that game. You'll remember he missed a field goal at the end of regulation that would have won it in regulation. And that play was, or that attempt was set up by I think it was a strip sack. I don't know if it was Justin Houston. I can't remember who got it, but the Chiefs forced a fumble, got it, and looked like they were just in great position to win the game at the end of regulation. The other thing is, in the overtime, they knocked Lamar Jackson out of the game, and it was RG3 that ended up finishing the game for the Ravens. So. So not the happiest of memories for Lamar Jackson against the Chiefs, but the guy's lost 3 regular season games in 2+ years, and 2 of them have been to the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, he's also 0-2 in the playoffs, and we know the Patrick Mahomes record in the playoffs is a little better than that. So I was surprised when the Ravens lost in their playoff game last year, just for the simple reason thought they were the better team and thought they would live up to the number 1 seed in the bracket, but also they had been stung the previous year with a home playoff loss. Remember, the Chargers knocked them out the previous year, and I thought, man, teams usually respond to that, like the Chiefs did, right? Losing the AFC title game and responding the way they did last season. So maybe just take a couple of shots for Lamar Jackson to have his playoff success.
I remember watching that game, Blair, and I don't know if this. I think we probably talked about it maybe at the time, but what was happening? The Ravens were on a really nice drive early, weren't they? And then there was a tipped ball that was intercepted. And they had a couple things go wrong. And maybe it's just because the camera kept going to Lamar Jackson, but the body language was really bad. I mean, you sort of had the sense, and what does this mean? I don't know necessarily, but you did have the sense that he was feeling the weight of the world on his shoulders in a different way than you see happening to Patrick when they get down.
Yeah, and I agreed. And in Tennessee, I remember just kept the ball and long sustained drives, and kept the Ravens off the field for most of that game. And but one thing that we know the Ravens do well, and they've done it in each of the 2 games they've played the Chiefs, and they have done it in the 2 games they've played this season, is they have run the ball very well. They went for 240 last week against the Texans. We all were excited when Clyde Edwards-Helaire had his big game against the Texans in week 1, and we're thinking, wow, this is they got a terrific back. I still think they do have a terrific back, but the Ravens also ran over the Texans this week, and isn't that the recipe against the Chiefs? Isn't it to not get in a duel with them, a shootout, but just to control the clock? And it seems to me when the Chiefs have lost, it's to teams in the Mahomes era, it's teams that don't turn it over, control the clock, limit the Chiefs' possessions, and the Chargers actually did a pretty decent job of that last week.
Yeah, I believe that 100%. I believe that that's the way to do it. You run on them, not just about the clock, not just about keeping Mahomes on the bench next to Andy Reid, but although that is important, but it's an effective way to move the ball against the Chiefs. I am curious. Mike Pennell should, I think we assume that he'll play on Monday for the first time this season, and that makes a difference. I think he's their best run defender, but the Ravens' run game is just different. I mean, they've got three running backs who could start for a lot of teams. And Lamar Jackson might be the best runner of any of them. So, I mean, that's a big old problem. And I think the Ravens are pretty well equipped to beat the Chiefs in that way. And I also like that they have the coach that has been the most aggressive on fourth downs and 2-point conversions against them. There's just the Ravens are a bad matchup for a lot of teams, but I do believe that in some specific ways they're a particularly bad matchup for the Chiefs.
Blair, you mentioned that when they've lost, and I think it's in a weird way underappreciated just because it's over 2 seasons, but it's 11 in a row the Chiefs have won now if you include the postseason games, and I don't know where that's headed or how that's going to hold up, but 4 of those games they trailed by double digits and came back to win. And I loved Sam's column from the other night that I think ran in print today. It really addressed a dimension of that about how long can they expect to get themselves into binds and find their way out. And the only counter argument is that, well, they do have Mahomes, but at some point that's not going to be enough, and maybe you're not going to always get 58-yard field goals either. So they've got to shore up some things to keep that going. Obviously,
right. A couple of points. I love what you said about the fourth down and Harbaugh. I think he's redefined or at least he's the coach who has gone. It was one of the first to go against the book when it comes to fourth and short. And he's done it against the Chiefs, and we saw how it backfired on Anthony Lynn on Sunday in L.A. I'm sure he regrets to this day not going for fourth and short in overtime when they had the ball first, and giving the Chiefs giving Mahomes the ball. I thought that turns out to be a pretty big mistake, and so I think we will see both coaches, Andy Reid and Harbaugh, go for fourth and short. They do it, right, and it's just part of their going against the grain a little bit and playing the percentages as the analytics define the percentages these days.
The worst part about that, I don't know if it's the worst part. There's a lot of worse parts, but one of the worst parts about that Anthony Lynn decision, and I do think he's a good coach, but one of the worst parts about that is they punted from the same spot that it was a yard off, but they punted from a yard away from where the Chiefs ended up with the ball to kick the field goal initially. So, it's just could have saved some trouble.
Hey, I also want to give credit to both you guys. I think I saw you on Twitter, and Blair certainly was saying it in the press box that he thought it was a mistake at that point. And maybe it's just absolutely by any logical standard a mistake. But the reasoning I guess I thought I saw in it was if you fail, you've just given them the win. I mean, it's an automatic, right? You're in their territory, you're going to win. Now, the question becomes how automatic was it anyway? But I guess I saw the rationale, but the downside is far bigger than the upside there. I mean, you gotta do a little something different, a little something extra to beat the Chiefs.
I think it's a good way to describe it. One more Chiefs-Ravens topic before we take a break. And I know this one is near and dear to Sam's heart. This will be the second time that a Patrick Mahomes-led team will have played an opponent that includes Marcus Peters.
Who had a hell of an interception against the Texans. You see that play?
He did. A great play. And, I mean, over the last – I guess since he's been in the league, nobody has more interceptions. By far, nobody has more interceptions. Don't you think that he's going to, make it a point to do everything he can to get a Mahomes pick?
I remember, you guys remember this too, the first time he played in Oakland, and he got so excited that he made himself vomit. And I think more than once on the sideline. Do you remember that? I'm not sure if it'll be quite to that level. He's not 22 years old anymore either, but it'll be close. It'll be close if he gets that interception. And he did get one at the end of that crazy Rams game, although that was
right.
Just kind of a prayer that Mahomes had to throw up. But if he gets an interception in a big game, he may have the ball and just you'll just see a trail of vomit like following him over to the bench or something.
Before he punts it.
Yeah, exactly.
Punt it, and it'll rattle around in the empty stadium. That'll be fun to see.
Yeah, he'll take his 5-yard penalty. That's all it is.
Right. All right. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to switch gears and talk a little college football because all three of our teams are playing this weekend. We'll be right back. Hey, it's Blair. We have a special subscription offer for SportsBeat KC listeners. Unlimited digital access to the Kansas City Star's award-winning sports coverage. Sign up now for 1 year of Sports Pass for access to all the sports news, features, and columns presented on the kansascity.com site, and it's only $30. That's a 40% savings off our regular rate. Your subscription will automatically renew after the initial term at $50 unless you tell us to cancel. Your subscription helps support the sports coverage of kansascity.com and the Kansas City Star, and that support has never been more important. Please visit kansascity.com/SportsBeatKC offer to get this special offer. And as always, thanks for listening. Back with Sam Mellinger and Vahe Gregorian. And does it feel like college football season yet to you guys? Vahe, does it feel like college football season?
It really doesn't, Blair. It's funny. I don't feel like I've been able to lock into following it the same way, and I feel like it's just so disjointed. It's hard to understand, sort of the through line on it to me, and yet, here we are. Maybe I'll feel more engaged once we've got some momentum into it, and like with all three of the local teams playing now as we speak now. I guess there's still some question about whether Kansas and Baylor will be able to play because of the COVID. And but it does look like Missouri will indeed take on Alabama despite missing a dozen or so COVID-ridden players. So I just think there's all these weird asterisks on everything going on, and it just makes it harder to sink your teeth into, at least for me.
What do you think, Sam?
Yeah, no, I would just underline everything Vahe just said. And there's also, again, I mean, if I was smart enough, I would repeat it word for word. But the other part of it too, like, I don't know if you guys feel this way, and this is getting off on a tangent a little bit, but when the Chiefs are this good and this interesting, it kind of like takes over my football interest in the fall a little bit. Unless, well, it would be K-State or Mizzou, right? But unless one of the local schools, just jumps up and is on track for a potential 10-win season or something, it's just when you've got this team, the local NFL team, the way it is now, it's hard to really get excited about a 6 or 7 win college team, I think sometimes.
Right. And the way the season has stopped and started
Yep.
for college football. And to look at it nationally, the SEC will begin on Saturday, and the Big Ten won't start for another month. And it's just, I don't know. I'm happy for the schools that are playing, and fingers crossed that they don't run into more issues. Vahe mentioned Baylor; they had the game canceled They've had twice. They've had games canceled because of COVID, and others in the Big 12 have gone through this, and others around the country also. North Carolina had a game last week postponed. So it's just difficult to really get a firm grip on the college football season. But I think in the local markets, right? I know the people at Nebraska are just thrilled that football's back there in Ohio State, and certainly in the SEC towns, they're just happy as they can be to have football. And in some of those places, you're going to have fans in the stands, not in the Big Ten, but certainly in at the SEC and at Missouri this week, right, Vahe? They're going to when Alabama comes, there will be fans in the stands.
I think I can't remember. I hope I'm not off by like a whole comma, but I think it's 11,000 or so that they'll be able to get in there. And we've seen the difference in those dynamics. It's still different than an empty stadium, obviously. And what's funny is that Blair, the two of us saw an empty stadium. Sam saw one with 16,000, so we don't have the direct comparison points except for putting our three noggins together.
Yeah, it is the empty stadium thing. By the way, we should have talked about that, Vahe. Our experience in Los Angeles. We'll end with that since you wrote a terrific column, and we'll attach it to the show notes here. But what a I don't know. It's indescribable. You tried. You wrote a great column,
Right.
but it is it was as odd an experience covering a game as I've ever had. How about you?
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny, I've been to some Royals games, but there's something about that. It just maybe it's because it's not as big a stadium. It's we're used to bigger crowds always with the Chiefs, and whatever that might be. And also, I think just our seat, the nature of where our seats were, we were in a corner of the press box. That's where the press box is, kind of up in a corner. But our view was completely over to one side of the field, and really the only people you could see were the Hunt family entourage in the owner's box, and you could always sort of zoom in on it because Gracie Hunt was wearing a red dress. You could just see that spot, and that was it. So that was the only sign of life over there. But I do think this. I think we both felt like this, Blair. As the game was getting more and more interesting, okay, it's a little weird that there's nobody in the stands, but the focus just kind of got more and more into the flow of the game and deadline and stuff like that. So, but it was weird from start to finish, right? Everything from our flight to picking up the rental car in an empty rental car lot to vacant LAX, all that's part of that feeling, right? Especially when you're used to seeing Chiefs fans with you the whole time when you're on the way out.
Well, that for me to be on a flight on Saturday afternoon to a road game involving the Chiefs and not see one person in Chiefs gear on that flight at a place where Chiefs have showed up, an opponent anyway, no matter where they've played, where they've showed up by the tens of thousands. They book their flights as soon as the schedule comes out to San Diego or LA or to Mexico City last year, and to not see anybody like that on the way out there was just wow.
Except for the one guy, which I probably should have tried to jam into what I was writing, but the one guy wearing the Royals cap with the backwards logo.
Yes, the upside down KC. I'd never seen that.
Custom designed somehow. He was a nice kid, but wasn't there for the Chiefs.
Right. Okay. All right. We'll end it with that. And great catching up with you, Sam Mellinger and Vahe Gregorian. That'll do it for today. Thanks to the production staff of Derek Donovan, Randy Mason, Beth Welsh, Jeff Rosen, Chris Fickett, and Savannah Smith for putting together the 300th episode of SportsBeat KC. A tip of the cap to Sam Mellinger and Vahe Gregorian for stopping by and talking Chiefs-Ravens. Links to their stories can be found in the show notes and on kansascity.com. Hey, earlier in the episode, you heard me talk about the Sports Pass offer. It still stands, and it is a good one. $30 for a year's worth of sports coverage, and that includes the Sports Extra that comes with the e-edition. There's more than 50 additional pages of national sports coverage today. Well, here's an even better offer. Buy the entire Kansas City Star product. Sports, news, features, commentary, and analysis, the whole thing. You get all the stories written by my talented colleagues, plus additional news, sports, and business coverage with the e-edition. The details can be found at account.kansascity.com/subscribe. That's account.kansascity.com/subscribe. And whether it's the Sports Pass or the full subscription, you're getting and supporting the best sports and news coverage in Kansas City and helping us produce programs like SportsBeat KC. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back on Wednesday with another episode.